If there's one word that captures the essence of Tyrannosaurs, it's power. For decades, these iconic predators have stood as the very symbol of brute force among dinosaurs. Their reputation was earned not just by Tyrannosaurus rex, but by the entire family. Beasts built like tanks, with thick skulls, reinforced skeletons, and jaws so strong they could reduce bone and armour to pulp. And of course, standing at the pinnacle of this legacy, is T.rex itself. An apex predator so massive and so powerfully built that its bite force is unmatched by any land animal in Earth's history. But this legacy of strength isn't just about one species. It's a theme that runs through the Tyrannosaur lineage like steel in a blade. From Alaska to Mongolia, Tyrannosaurs ruled through raw force, so much so that power might as well be written into their DNA. But this muscle-bound reputation wasn't always the case. Despite what popular imagination suggests, Tyrannosaurs didn't start off as juggernauts. For much of their evolutionary history, they were something else entirely: sprinters. Early Tyrannosaurs weren't built like bulldozers, they were long-legged, lean-limbed hunters built for speed. These were Cursorial Tyrannosaurs, adapted not for overpowering prey with crushing bites, but for chasing it down across open terrain. These were the first true apex tyrants, and they didn't rely on brute force to dominate their ecosystems. They relied on agility. Still, compared to their later bulkier cousins, these speedy tyrants were less physically imposing. They couldn't tackle the largest prey and were eventually overshadowed as more robust tyrannosaurs evolved. The age of brute force arrived, and with it the age of the Tyrannosaurines. Most of the cursorial forms were gradually pushed aside, replaced by heavier, stronger, more terrifying cousins. Speed gave way to strength, and with that shift, the Tyrannosaur's public image hardened into what we know today. Not sprinters, but sledgehammers. Almost all cursorial Tyrannosaurs faded into obscurity, but not Gorgosaurus. While most lithe tyrants fell from dominance, Gorgosaurus Libratus refused to bow out. It kept the slender, speed-oriented frame of its ancestors, but it scaled up. It was bigger and stronger, and unlike cursorial forms, Gorgosaurus didn't flee from its most robust cousins. It stood alongside them, holding its own as one of the most formidable apex predators of Campanian North America. But to understand Gorgosaurus, you have to go back. Long before it ruled the floodplains of prehistoric Alberta, the story begins with smaller, scrappier tyrants from the Jurassic and early Cretaceous. These earlier tyrannosaurs weren't kings, they were survivors. Slender and quick, they lived in the shadows of giant carnosaurs like Allosaurus and Cyats, picking off small prey and staying out of trouble. Their speed was both weapon and defense. And then, opportunity struck. Roughly 90 million years ago, a mass extinction event, the Sermanian-Turanian boundary event, wiped out the reigning apex predators of the time. The old guard was gone, and into that void stepped the Tyrannosaurs. Free from the shadow of larger hunters, these nimble predators seized their moment and began evolving into something new. They got bigger, developed stronger jaws, and sharpened their speed into something lethal. They didn't just grow fast, they stayed fast. They developed longer legs, narrower skulls, and better balance. Their famously tiny arms, likely a weight-saving feature to keep their bodies streamlined. And in one of their most important upgrades, they evolved the arctometatarsus, a unique arrangement of the foot bones where the middle metatarsal is pinched between its neighbours. This structure, unique among large theropods, helped them absorb shock, resist torsion, and maintain agility at high speeds. But no advantage lasts forever. As the Late Cretaceous wore on, the northern continents were becoming crowded, not just with predators, but with prey. Hadrosaurs, ankylosaurs, and giant ceratopsians were diversifying rapidly, filling the herbivore niches with massive, heavily built animals. These weren't the kind of prey a lightweight hunter could take down. In response, tyrannosaurs began to change once more. Evolving around 82 million years ago, these tyrants were a whole new breed. Stockier, shorter-legged, and more powerfully built. Their speed declined, but their strength skyrocketed. They traded agility for raw power, and in doing so they became some of the most dominant terrestrial carnivores to ever walk the earth. Their jaws became colossal bone-crushing weapons, engineered to splinter the armour of ankylosaurs or crack open the neck frill of a charging ceratopsid. And with their bulkier builds, they could take down prey far larger than any cursorial tyrant ever could. By the end of the Cretaceous, these bruisers, Daspletosaurus, Tarbosaurus, and eventually T.rex, had become the rulers of the land. And yet, even among these giants, Gorgosaurus endured. It held fast to its cursorial roots, but scaled up to meet the challenge. It was a predator perfectly balanced between the old world and the new, a speed demon with real bite force, a lighter build that didn't compromise on size. Evolution doesn't always move in a straight line. On Laramidia, one branch of Tyrannosaurs defied the trend. As others traded speed for strength, the Albertosaurines managed both, growing larger and deadlier without losing their agility. At the forefront of Gorgosaurus, not a relic, but the peak of cursorial tyrants. Gorgosaurus burst onto the scene around 79 million years ago, and it made a statement the moment it arrived. It wasn't just another quick-footed hunter, it was massive. Adults regularly reached lengths of 9 meters, 30 feet, stood up to 3 meters, 10 feet, tall at the hips, and weighed as much as 3 tons. Some individuals may have pushed past the 10-meter mark and tipped the scales even higher. That's not just big for a sprinter, it's big for any predator, period. At this size, Gorgosaurus could rival even the more heavily built Tyrannosaurines of its time, standing toe-to-toe with some of the largest land predators on Earth. But Gorgosaurus wasn't just a fast giant, it was a well-armed one. Its skull, over a meter long in the biggest individuals, was robust and powerfully built. The fused nasal bones formed a vaulted bridge along the snout, helping absorb bone-jarring stresses of combat. And while it didn't quite match the sheer skull strength of its Tyrannosaurine cousins, it still packed an impressive punch. The lower jaw was particularly formidable, reinforced towards the front for added strength, an adaptation that suggests Gorgosaurus seized its prey with the tip of its jaws, much like modern big cats that use their mouths to clamp down on the throat of struggling animals. Its teeth, thick, banana-shaped and deeply set, were designed not just to puncture flesh, but to hold fast under pressure, biting deep and resisting the torsion caused by flailing prey. The result? A bite force that could range anywhere from 13,000 to 20,000 newtons. Despite having a narrower skull than a Tyrannosaurine like T.rex, Gorgosaurus could still deliver a bone-crushing blow comparable to any predator of similar size. Yet for all its power, the core identity of Gorgosaurus remained unchanged. It was, through and through, a predator built for speed. The clues are written into every inch of its frame. Unlike Tyrannosaurines, Gorgosaurus had a leaner, more glacial build, with a narrower chest and more finely sculpted hips and limbs. Its long legs, especially its shin bones, which were longer than the thighs, hinted at a creature optimized for long strides and fast pursuit. The feet followed suit, equipped with extended metatarsals that acted like natural springboards. All of these features gave it a clear edge in speed and stamina. Internally, Gorgosaurus had another secret weapon, an advanced system of air sacs. Much like modern birds, these allowed for unidirectional breathing, delivering a constant supply of fresh oxygen during exertion. This made it a long-distance runner of exceptional capability, far beyond what any mammal its size could manage. Studies have pegged its top speed between 10 to 12 meters per second, roughly 22 to 27 miles per hour. That's over a third faster than a white rhinoceros and far more nimble. In a comparative analysis, Gorgosaurus consistently outranks not just a T.rex, but even fellow Albertosaurines like Albertosaurus in terms of running ability. So what kind of killer does all this produce? Gorgosaurus hunted like a cheetah in a tyrant's body. It could chase down its victims across open terrain, outlasting them with endurance or simply closing the distance in a flash. When it struck, it targeted the throat, driving its reinforced jaws and gripping teeth into the windpipe with a death grip. Strangulation by bite, an efficient, brutal method more familiar to lions than to lumbering dinosaurs. So while the rest of the cursorial tyrants faded into extinction or obscurity, Gorgosaurus stood tall, proof that speed, when combined with size and power, could still reign supreme. This wasn't just a survivor, this was a resurgence, and with Gorgosaurus leading the charge, the age of the cursorial tyrants didn't go out quietly, it went out in a blaze of glory. Gorgosaurus belongs to the subfamily Albertosaurinae, a branch of Tyrannosauridae that includes some of the Late Cretaceous' most iconic predators. Its closest known relative is Albertosaurus, a slightly younger genus from the same group. These two remain the only definitively recognised Albertosaurines, though more unnamed species may still be awaiting formal description. Paleontologists have long debated the placement of certain tyrannosaurs. Apalachiosaurus from eastern North America was once thought to lie just outside Tyrannosauridae, though Thomas Holtz later proposed it might be an Albertosaurine. More recent but unpublished research leans back towards its original position. While robust tyrannosaurines like Daspletosaurus and Tyrannosaurus were built for power, Albertosaurines such as Gorgosaurus and Albertosaurus were leaner and faster. Their similarities have sparked debate over whether Gorgosaurus and Albertosaurus are truly separate. Dale Russell proposed merging them in 1970, but others like Phil Currie argue that differences are significant, comparable to those between Daspletosaurus and T.rex. Some even suggest Gorgosaurus could be Albertosaurus's direct ancestor. Similar to other tyrannosaurids, the bite force of Gorgosaurus and Albertosaurus increases gradually in younger individuals and then grows exponentially during the late juvenile stage. In 2012, Juvenile and Lane estimated that Gorgosaurus could generate a bite force of at least 22,000 newtons, possibly reaching up to 42,000 newtons. However, other paleontologists have proposed lower estimates. In 2021, Therian and colleagues noted that the largest known Gorgosaurus had a bite force comparable to that of a Tyrannosaurus, suggested that the maximum bite force for an adult Albertosaurines might range from 12,200 to 21,800 newtons. Later in 2022, Sakamoto estimated that Gorgosaurus could exert an interior bite force of 6,418 newtons and a posterior bite force of 13,817 newtons. A fascinating discovery in 2023 provided new insights into Gorgosaurus feeding habits. A juvenile Gorgosaurus found in the Dinosaur Park Formation had its stomach contents preserved, revealing two juvenile cytypes, about a year old and weighing between 9 and 12 kilograms, 20 to 26 pounds. This juvenile Gorgosaurus, estimated to be 5 to 7 years old at the time of death, measured around 4 meters, 13 feet in length, and weighed roughly 335 kilograms, 739 pounds. This finding challenges the previous assumption that tyrannosaurids only hunted prey of comparable size once they reached 16 to 32 kilograms, 35 to 71 pounds. Instead, it suggested that even juvenile tyrannosaurids continued to consume significantly smaller prey as they grew larger. This discovery provides direct dietary evidence supporting the concept of an ontogenetic dietary shift in tyrannosaurids, a theory previously proposed through ecological modelling and anatomical studies across different age groups. The stomach contents of this juvenile Gorgosaurus included only the remains of the hind limbs and caudal vertebrae of the cytypes, hinting that the juvenile tyrannosaurids may have preferred consuming the muscular hind limbs. Thomas Holtz Jr., a paleontologist who has long theorized about dietary shifts in tyrannosaurs as they matured, humorously remarked that the fossil looks like it was Thanksgiving, given that the juvenile Gorgosaurus appeared to have mostly consumed the legs of the cytypes. Tyrannosaurids continued to grow throughout their lives but experienced rapid growth spurts for about 4 years following a prolonged juvenile phase. This period of rapid growth likely ended with sexual maturity, after which growth slowed significantly in adults. By analysing 5 Gorgosaurus specimens of different sizes, it is estimated that the maximum growth rate to be around 50 kilograms, 110 pounds per year during the rapid growth phase. Gorgosaurus spent as much as half of its life in the juvenile phase before growing rapidly to a near maximum size within just a few years. This growth pattern, combined with the absence of predators that were intermediate in size between large adult tyrannosaurids and smaller theropods, suggests that juvenile tyrannosaurids may have occupied these ecological niches. The pattern is reminiscent of modern Komodo dragons, whose hatchlings begin life as tree-dwelling insectivores before maturing into massive apex predators capable of taking down large prey. While other tyrannosaurids, including Albertosaurus, have been found in aggregations that some interpret as mixed-age packs, there is no evidence of gregarious behaviour in Gorgosaurus. The discovery of 2 exceptionally well-preserved juvenile Gorgosaurus skulls suggests that this species underwent the shift from glacial juveniles to robust adults at an earlier age than Tyrannosaurus. This morphological transformation occurred around 5 to 7 years of age in Gorgosaurus, much earlier than in its larger, later relative. Several Gorgosaurus fossils show healed injuries, offering insight into their harsh, violent lives. The Gorgosaurus Libratus holotype has multiple healed wounds, damaged ribs, broken belly ribs, a fractured fibula, and a deformed toe with a small misshapen claw, possibly from a fight. Another specimen has a cracked fibula, healed ribs, and bite marks on its face that were healing before death. A third fossil shows a poorly healed fibula with a large bony lump. Interestingly, a 2001 study of 54 Gorgosaurus foot bones found no stress fractures. Like many tyrannosaurids, Gorgosaurus also engaged in face biting. One juvenile skull bears several marks and was later confirmed to be Gorgosaurus libratus. A jawbone shows 5 healed scars, and a nearly complete subadult has facial wounds, a healed jaw and fibula, and a strange mushroom-like growth on a toe, similar to one found in an orthonomimid. That specimen was preserved in a classic death pose. Most Gorgosaurus libratus specimens have been found in the Dinosaur Park Formation in Alberta, which dates to the middle of the Campanian, between 76.5 and 74.8 million years ago. Fossils of Gorgosaurus are specifically known from the lower to middle sections of the formation, dating from 76.6 to 75.1 million years ago. Possible Gorgosaurus remains have also been discovered in the 2 Medicine and Judith river formations of Montana. During this period, the region was a coastal plain along the western edge of the Western Interior Seaway. The Laramide orogeny had begun uplifting from the Rocky Mountains to the west, and rivers flowing from these mountains deposited eroded sediment into vast coastal floodplains. The climate was subtropical, marked seasonality, and periodic droughts that led to the mass mortality among dinosaur herds, as evidenced by the many bone beds preserved in the Dinosaur Park Formation. The landscape was dominated by conifer forests, while the understory included ferns, tree ferns, and early angiosperms. Around 73 million years ago, the Western Interior Seaway began to transgress, flooding areas once above sea level and submerging the Dinosaur Park ecosystem. This event, called the Bear Paw Sea Transgression, is recorded in the marine sediments of the Bear's Paw Shale. The Dinosaur Park Formation preserves an extensive variety of vertebrate fossils. Numerous fish species such as gars, sturgeons, sharks and rays inhabited the rivers and estuaries. Amphibians, including frogs, salamanders and turtles, as well as crocodilians and champsosaurs, were present in the aquatic habitats. Pterosaurs and ornithoran birds, including Apotornis, soared overhead, while Avisaurus lived on the ground alongside mammals, such as multituberculates, metatherians, and eutherians. Terrestrial lizards, including whiptails, skinks, monitors, and alligator lizards, also populated the area. Dinosaurs fossils, however, are found with exceptional abundance and diversity. Vast herds of ceratopsids roamed the floodplains, alongside Saurolophine and Lambeosaurine hadrosaurs. Other herbivores included ornithomimids, therizinosaurs, pachycephalosaurs, smaller ornithopods, and armoured nodosaurids and ankylosaurids. Smaller predators like oviraptorosaurs, troodontids, and dromaeosaurs hunted prey far smaller than the massive tyrannosaurids, Daspletosaurus and Gorgosaurus, which outweighed them by orders of magnitude. Juvenile tyrannosaurs may have filled middle predator roles. During the middle stages of the dinosaur park formation, Gorgosaurus coexisted with the rarer Daspletosaurus, one of the few instances of two tyrannosaur genera living together. In modern ecosystems, similar-sized predators usually occupied different niches to reduce competition, but how these two tyrannosaurs did this isn't clear. In 1970, Dale Russell suggested that Gorgosaurus hunted fast-moving hadrosaurs, while the larger Daspletosaurus targeted ceratopsians and ankylosaurs.